So
Anyway.
this is episode 30. This is episode 30 of the Open Minded podcast. Today we've got George Gray and he's going to introduce himself.
Yeah, so my name's George Gray. I'm 21 years old today.
Today?
Yeah, it's my birthday.
It's your birthday today?
Yeah, I'm
You need
21.
to start the podcast first.
He's got on the Open Minded podcast.
Yeah, for my 21st birthday somehow.
George, that's so cute. Happy birthday, man.
Thank you. But yeah, I'm a university student. I'm in my second year studying business and finance. I'm from the south, but I'm currently doing a degree in Worcester. And I play wheelchair basketball. That's kind of who I am.
That was very nice and succinct and eloquent, George. I appreciate that, man. And yeah, like there are many ways that I could take this conversation today. I could ask you about how you got started with basketball and talk about the early days at Hampshire Harriers, wasn't it? Back in the day, back in
that's
history,
right.
love and life. But really, like I said to you before we started recording, I'm more interested in George Gray, the man today. All right, the drive behind what he does, the motivations, the mystery that I think is there that I've noticed, and maybe some other people have noticed, and also maybe the darkness that might be behind those eyes in that soul that I haven't really touched on before. But I want to ask first, sort of quite a broad question, and then we can bounce off each other with. What motivates you? And that's, as I say, that's quite, there's a lot of ways you can interpret that, but really, what gets you out of bed in the morning and what drives you to do the things that you do when have a training session that maybe you don't want to go to, or your eyes open in the morning, your alarm goes off at 6 a.m. to go to the pool, and you're like, fuck this shit, why do I do this? Why do I bother? What gets you, and what's the activation energy that gets you to do those things?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really interesting question, and like, you can go almost anywhere, buy any book, listen to any podcast, and they'll tell you about motivation. But for me, I think it's more about discipline. You are right. A lot of times I do get up for early morning sessions at 5:30 in the morning, 3 times a week and things like that. But for me, it's why do I do it? I think back to the life I was living a few years ago. And since then, I am where I am today. And like every day I live like this is, a million times better than what it was before.
What, in terms of your mental health, or like where your position is?
Yeah, just all aspects of my life, both mental, physically, even just like, physically in my body, mentally in my mind, but, what I'm doing, what I'm trying to achieve. I take, every day, as I am today, over whatever life I had before. So
your motivation in a way is looking back at your past self and seeing how far you've come.
Yeah, definitely. And like, if I don't do that, then I'm slowly seeping towards what I was. So therefore, like, it's weird, but I see it as a blessing that I'm able to get up at 5:15, go downstairs, get all my gym kit and go straight to a swimming pool and swim for an hour, and then drive back and then go have breakfast. Like, I see that as a blessing, because I've grown up and I've seen a lot of people who aren't able to do that can't do that. And for instance, that's what I think about when I struggle with getting up. I think, well, I can do it. I physically can do it, and it's a blessing.
And this George from a few years ago, if he was sat in that chair there, what would he be like?
I think it's hard to say, but you knew me growing up playing basketball when I was a lot younger. I wasn't as chiseled as I am now, and not physically, but like mentally. Like, I think I was rude. I was angry. I was unmotivated and just kind of a bit depressed growing up. So he wouldn't be the person I am today.
And where do you think maybe that anger came from? Is it the normal teenage boy full of testosterone, me versus the world thing? Because I think I think everyone has that to a degree, but it seems like, I think it's for a lot of guys, they find fitness or sport or the gym as like their outlet for their like anger against the world, or like their feelings of insufficiency. Was that similar for you? Yeah,
to an extent. I felt, for me, growing up with a disability, I essentially grew a nerve tumour in my sciatic nerve in my right leg from the age of 12, and I spent 3 years without an answer. No one could even tell me what was wrong with my leg, and I had this chronic pain. I was on really strong medication that essentially made me hallucinate and things like that. So I wasn't able to focus, and I wasn't able to do things that other people were doing, and no one had any answers. You know, the doctors didn't have answers. My parents didn't have answers, and I kind of just fell into this pit where, you know, there was not a lot going for me, and I felt very just against the world, like everything was against me. And I was at a school that wasn't accessible in the slightest. You know, I spent all my PE lessons in secondary school sitting on a wet field watching football and watching rugby. You know, when I wanted to go into the gym or go into the sports hall and play basketball. So I think it's kind of to come back from that, what makes me feel like that is just, I was so angry as a child because I didn't have answers. I wasn't happy what I could do physically. You know, that took a toll on my mental health. You know, all my friends were able to do the things that they wanted to do, and I spent most of my secondary school in hospital. And basically, I turned out at 18. They, you know, aged me out, so I was no longer in the child system in hospital, and you know, there was pretty much no progression from where I was. So, you know, just all of that clutter together made me kind of just this angry kid that I felt that people often think who I am, but now I'm more not sophisticated, but more chiseled and understand my body and understand my mind. You know, I'm just trying to build on that.
But both of you have spent quite a bit of time in hospital and away from school. What has that been like, and what has it done to you?
Well, so I took the end of like the last term of year 7 out, and I had that major surgery, and I stayed in hospital for 5 weeks. And like, yeah, like missing the school was kind of fine, you know, 'cause you go back and then everyone's just normal anyway after summer, everyone's had a break off. But I think, and I think you'd agree with me, George, even though we're like, inverted commas, not that disabled, like it could be a whole lot worse, and it is a whole lot worse for people we know. Like, you are fundamentally a little bit different to everyone else, not just in terms of like, oh, he walks funny, but your view on the world. Like, I've said this before, and I've probably talked about it on an episode before, and I've definitely spoke to you about this, Jacob, before, that like, when you're on a ward, because I stayed in like a long-term ward, when you're seeing kids with terminal cancer that have like months to live at like 11 years old, like, you can't then just go back to school and want to play Clash Royale. But you're just different. You look around and you go, these people, you see darkness, real darkness. And even as an 11-year-old, I hadn't really truly conceptualized it because I had no clue really what I was doing or what I was. But in later years, when I reflect on it, I'm like, that molded me a lot. And also the physical and mental discomfort I went through served me massively. Like, at the time it was horrible, but like, my ability to just eat shit and deal with discomfort and pain, that was really good. And I think that helps me in all facets of life. So like, obviously I wouldn't want to go back there, and I wouldn't wish that on anyone, and I wouldn't want to go through that now. But actually, when I look at my life and I look at the moments I'm most proud of, and the moments that have given me the most mental fortitude and lessons, were actually those times that I wouldn't have had if I hadn't had a disability. You know?
Yeah, definitely. You know, to kind of go off what you said there, it's like, you go through all this experience through your own eyes, and you know, for me, I don't know for you, Joel, but most of my friends were non-disabled, you know, just normal kids, and you'd go back to school, and like you're saying, after doing it or experiencing it, you know, getting kicked out of school to then have to go do hydrotherapy or go have an operation, go to do physio, go to a rehab house with people with eating disorders, you know, really autistic children that are doing, you know, that they're experiencing things that is completely different. And you know, even your parents, for example, you know, growing up, your parents are supposed to guide you and show you how to experience life. But for my experience, my parents didn't go through that because they're able-bodied. They've never been through a disability, and there was, for me, so much that wasn't answered, that we had no answers. So, you know, it was for me kind of going into unknown in all aspects of my life.
Do you think that you've started to find those answers, or do you think you're still looking?
I'd say a handful of both. I don't think it's an easy answer, yes or no. Like, I think I understand more about myself and I understand more about the world. So in that aspect, yes. But I also feel like I'm still learning about myself. I'm still learning about other people. I'm still, not someone who's a complete person, someone who's still building.
Yeah, I think that's the best way to be, though, isn't it?
Mm.
I think you'll always be in pursuit of that. There are questions in our life, these whys, that we'll always just be chasing for like years and years and years. I'm interested then. So you've got old George in inverted commas, who was this kid that was angry and looking for answers, and then you've got this George now. But there's a lot of time and days and hours and thoughts and energy and habits in between those two things. What was the start of that when you was there like a eureka moment where you were like, I want to get my shit together a little bit here. What do I want? Let's set some goals. Let's put pen to paper and figure this out. Like, what was that process like? Or was it more gradual? Did you stumble into this? Or what was that like?
Yeah, definitely. I think it'd be easy for me to say it was one day I woke up, but it was a journey over about a year, I'd say. I finished my education at 18. I got A levels, and I took a gap year essentially, but I wasn't planning on going to university. I didn't feel like it was the right thing for me. I just wanted to work and make some money. So I did that, but I also had my leg amputated. So
during the gap year?
Yeah, it was pretty much straight away after my education. So while all my friends went to university and things like that, I worked 2 jobs, from home, got my leg amputated. And from there, kind of, as soon as I woke up from that amputation, I realized, okay, this is a chance where I can get more from my life than I was ever told I would be able to get. The doctors were told me that I wouldn't be able to walk again. I was expected to be on strong medication for my whole life, and now all of a sudden I don't need to be on medication, and my limits are almost limitless. So it was over a period of a year. Like, I worked really hard over my gap year, and then I realized maybe I wanted more. I wanted to get the education, to get the degree, and to also develop my basketball. So it wasn't just one day. It was a period of time, and I was also associating maybe with the wrong group of people for a period of time during those couple of years. So it made me really realize that I wanted more from myself than what I was doing, and that took about a year or so, and that's kind of where I am today.
What does getting your leg amputated mean?
Okay, so with my condition, it affected my whole right leg, and growing up, I had all limbs. I wasn't an amputee, but when I kind of got discharged from the children's hospital kind of system, I realized, I just kind of was just looking at my leg, going, all my issues is in my lower leg. Like, physically for me, that's where the pain is. That's where I don't have the function. So I just thought one day, well, why not just amputate it? Even if even if it didn't work out, what getting rid of where the pain is, that must be good. So it took me, I thought about this in college. So I was about 16, 17. And it took about 6 months of convincing the doctors to do it, and that I was mentally kind of sound, and making, a rational decision. So, then I told them I wanted to wait until I finished my A levels, so then I could take a gap and I wouldn't affect my education. So we got the leg amputated basically from that.
Right. So that's just getting like a metal leg. I'm kind of unsure what amputated means.
So it's basically just taking the leg off.
Yeah.
So George just has a stump under his knee, and then he's got a prosthetic on now.
Yeah. So I'm a below knee amputee on my right side.
So that's quite a big decision. And
So did I get that right? That they had to, so you asked whenever, like 16, 17, but they had to check that it wasn't just like a teenage thing that you were like, oh yeah, I'll just get rid of it then. That they had to make sure that you were sound of mind to make that decision. Is that why they waited till you were 18? Or?
No. So the reason why I wanted to wait to 18 is because I didn't want to have to repeat another year in college. I wanted to finish my education, and like it didn't make a huge difference for me. I could be on crutches in college and in a wheelchair. Like I could get through that because I'd done it for a year or so already. And yeah, they wanted to, you know, make sure I was sound of mind because apparently previously other people have been, you know, using amputation or other surgeries to affect maybe a classification in a disability sport. So they just wanted to make sure that that wasn't the case. And also, you know, I was on strong medication, so they wanted to make sure that I was fully mentally sound and making a rational decision.
Yeah. I mean, I can't even imagine. What's that like when obviously you going in for that surgery, you take the anaesthetic, you wake up, your foot's not there?
Yeah.
Like, it's simple. That sounds like a funny, simple question, but like, seriously, what was that like? You wake up, you're just like, where's my foot gone?
So I woke up, and the moment I wake up, and I remember it very vividly, is that I looked down and I said, just game on. Like, my whole, it felt like my whole life had been held back by my lower leg, and all of a sudden I'd woken up and it was gone. So like it was almost like the floodgates have opened, like my life opportunity had opened up. Like, so suddenly, you know, give it a year and a half, I would be able to do so much more than what I would have ever been able to do had I followed the doctor's advice.
And what was their advice? To just carry on as you were, taking the drugs?
Yeah,
and...
absolutely.
So why don't they? Because to me it makes sense what you've done. Why don't they suggest that and give that as an option? Well, we could amputate if you wanted to. Is it because it's expensive for them, or like effort, or like why? Because
you know, I'm not sure I have an answer. Like as most people's, you know, reaction to it when I say it is, wow, that's a big decision. Like, how on earth did you come to that decision? And you know, it's definitely got to come from the person themselves, unless it's, you know, like a critical issue, like for instance tumours or something that, you know, that could cause real you know, issues for people. I think for me, I'm just someone who sees very rationally, you know, my lower leg didn't work, therefore if you get rid of it and put something metal there, it'll work slightly better. I think it took a while to convince my family and try and get my family to understand why I'm doing it.
What was that conversation like?
Yeah, it's difficult. I think there was a conversation. They didn't. Again, it's like if you were to speak to your mum and your dad and say, you know, what's it like having a, you know, cerebral palsy or a disability, they give you lists of reasons, but they never understand because they don't have it. And you kind of have to accept that they're never going to understand. They might sort of get it, but you know, they don't wake up every day with the disability. You know, they don't have to go to the toilet, they don't go through school, they don't do daily activities with disability, so they're never going to fully get it. And I think that's something that I learn and understand now. Growing up, I was expecting them to have the answers for me, and you almost can't expect them to because they're not going through the same thing you did.
And is there like a significant feeling difference physically?
Did you try and wiggle your toes when you woke up? And like, what is that like? And that's a stupid question on the surface, but like, it's interesting.
Yeah. I mean, it's difficult to say. Like, sure, like, because obviously using your body is all through the mind. So like, you tell your mind to move it. Yeah, like sometimes I get a bit of phantom pain, you know.
What does that actually? Is it literally feel like your foot is hurting, but the foot's
not?
Like
a bit of pins and needles in like the inside arch of your foot. But
what's phantom pain?
So yeah, phantom pain is like when you get a limb amputated, but you can still feel sensations from like the limb that isn't there anymore.
So you feel your.
Well, like, he can explain it better than I can.
So it's like you feel your toe bit.
So if you touch the table,
yeah.
What happens is your brain tells you first of all to move your hand to touch the table. Then a nerve ending in your finger goes up to the brain and tells your brain that you've touched it, and then your brain then reacts to that. If it's hot, for instance, they'll pull it off. That's why it takes a second or two to do that. So what the phantom pain is that nerve ending, or the brain thinking that there's a nerve ending there when there isn't, because the brain has had that leg or had that limb there for a significant amount of time, so it's used to feeling things down there. So that's where the phantom pain comes from.
Right.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
Right.
Fascinating.
But for me, having chronic pain in that lower leg, which is basically constant pain, real bruising, real different types of pain, shooting pain. I need to take tramadol, morphine, which are really strong drugs. All of a sudden, I didn't need to take them anymore. For me, a bit of phantom pain is a easy win. It doesn't even come close to the chronic pain that I had.
So you spent much of your teenage life on tramadol and things like that regularly?
Yes. So I was on pregabalin, which is a drug in that drug tree, if you will, from 12 to 18, right until I got it amputated.
And did that affect like your focus and your ability to just function in daily life? Because I've had those things from time to time, and you're just kind of just drowsy, and you're not really there. Yeah,
I mean, like trying to do GCSEs, trying to do A levels, and all of a sudden you're trying to focus, and you just, like you just said, feel really drowsy, and you look up, and you're just staring into the light, for example. But not only that, is I'd have to take it 2 or 3 times a day, and therefore if you miss that, because your body's so reliant on it, I really felt the withdrawal symptoms. So like I could really feel that. So even if I didn't take it, I almost became this addict-like person, like craving another hit.
You
because
were basically addicted to pain meds. That's what it was.
Yeah, exactly. And again, trying to juggle that with being a teenager, it's a recipe for disaster, really, I think.
So did you feel when you're like, because I'm guessing then at school you'd like have to pop the tramadol out at midday at lunchtime when you packed lunch. Did you feel quite misunderstood in your peer group at school? And like, I'm assuming you had a friendship group, but like, did they understand what was really going on? Is it like, look at George with his funny drugs, haha, I think for my friend group it was okay. Like I had friend group because they knew me as the person I was. Whereas I was at school with about 1,000 people, so I was that kid in the wheelchair. Like that's what really hurt me was, I was that kid in the wheelchair. Like they didn't see me for who I was. They didn't see me for the athlete I was. They just see, oh, okay, the wheelchair's come on, right? Let's move out of the way. You know what I mean? Like, oh, the wheelchair's coming. Okay, everyone clear out so you can use the lift. The stairs are at the other end of the school where all your mates go, and you've got to drive wheel all the way down to the lift that's the other side, and go up and then go all the way back. Yeah.
Or going into a classroom, and you have to use the wheelchair desk, and the desk is not where your friends are sitting, and it just. Those kind of things that make you feel different from everyone else.
Yeah, and they seem like small things, but they're the things that annoy me most about being disabled.
Yeah.
It's not the fact I walk funny. It's when it stops me from doing things that other people can do.
Yeah.
That's why I try and like use a chair as little as possible, and I will walk around, because I found it coming to uni, right? First 2 days I used a tri-ride to get around campus. So when I went to like the introductory lectures and stuff, I was like in the tri-ride, but I could tell it was stopping me from starting friendship groups and stuff.
Yeah.
Because it's a label that people perceive before they get to know you.
Yeah.
So they are different when they introduce themselves and interact with you, because they're not really sure how to navigate it, because it's this different thing.
Yeah.
So then I was like, well, it might use a bit more petrol, but I'm just going to drive around campus and then walk into things. And then from then on it was easier. Like I shouldn't have to do that.
Yeah.
But that is the reality.
Yeah.
And I feel more, it's almost like I identify with that stereotype then, and I become more like anxious and like rigid in myself, and I can't come out of my shell because I feel like I'm kind of behind this barrier of this chair, even though I'm not even like not that disabled in inverted commas. It's still a thing. So yeah, interesting. Like how do you feel hearing that? Because like obviously you just see me as me because you're used to how I've been, because we've known each other since we were basically born. But like, those are the factors that we think about,
Sounds very hard to be you in some situations. Makes me feel grateful.
Well, that's good. That's positive, man.
But do you see when obviously you guys know each other and know each other, so therefore personalities, you're good friends. Do you see the way that people look at Joel when he's in his wheelchair compared to when he's walking? Do you see a difference? Like even just verbal, non-verbal cues?
I don't know if there's a difference with treating it different. I think it's maybe body language with people.
I think people go into like this little alarm state of like, oh, something different here. How do I navigate this? How do I interact with them? What do I say? Do I mention it? Do we talk about it? Like I had that when I first met my group of friends on my course at uni. it's one of the first things I talked about. Because once it's said, it's done.
Yeah.
Like, it's not an elephant in the room anymore. I go, I've got cerebral palsy, had it this long, I just walk funny, my name's Joel, nice to meet you. Like, that's it. Once that's done, it's normal then. But before that point, they don't know whether to mention it or not. And they don't know whether, like, especially in this massively politically correct world we live in, they're worried of offending me by saying that, oh, he's in a wheelchair. Like, I don't give a crap about that stuff. Call me a cripple, I don't care, 'cause that's what I am. That's the reality of it. Do you know what I mean? But people are very wary and they have to tread very lightly.
It's kind of a negative stereotype, I think.
Yeah, and people don't want to say that they like think about it differently, but you just do. Like, that's life. Like, that's fine.
Yeah, like you're saying this persona, but it's like it's been exaggerated through a lack of visibility. Like, people are afraid of offending people by talking about disability or asking if they need help. Like, it's because there's been no visibility. Like, whenever do you see people in the community in wheelchairs in a vocal point? It's only been happening very recently over the last five years or so. Even then, most people who see wheelchairs are people who are injured. Like, all the TV programs, from 5 years ago, you only ever see a wheelchair if they're injured or if they're incapacitated. Like, there is very little visibility that's happened previously on, life in a wheelchair. Sport. People that can live independent lives without being so-called injured or going through that kind of life.
That's one thing I love about basketball, is that, like, so tomorrow we've got a game and I'm bringing some uni friends to the game that I've never seen anything like that corner of my life whatsoever, and I love the fact that they will see all these disabled people playing the sport, looking sick at what they do because they've done it for years and they're skilled and they're competent. But if you saw them in like a shop, you'd be like, oh, I should have a wheelchair user.
Yeah.
But you see them in this context and they're like, damn, he's sick. Like, look at what he just did there. That's amazing. Yeah. And like, I don't know if you've experienced it, Jake, 'cause you've been to a few of my games, but like, the first time, was it weird seeing that of like, that's fundamental stereotype that people have is changed because you're like, damn, this is quite cool,
I think we perceive people in wheelchairs as incompetent.
No, but that's the truth. That's probably it. Like,
and when you see them in that basketball, it just totally switches it.
But then, like, for me, the way my life's living now is that I want to build on that. Like you just said there, it's everyone you ever speak to, whoever sees it, is like, wow, this is eye-opening. So, like, I want to be able to be a vocal point in future, the way my career goes, to be able to project disability life, sport in general, to give it to that mainstream media, to give it more respect and to give it more visibility.
And how do you think you're going to go about achieving that?
I think the number one thing is visibility. Like, there's got to be more of a social media presence. For example, I have people that come up to me who I'm not necessarily close with, but oh my goodness, did you see the Paralympics TikTok? They do the funny voiceovers that go viral and there's a few million views. Like, that's how you get in to the spotlight, is attracting new viewership. And like, for me, that's really important because then that shows an interest. And then if it's showing on a TV channel after watching a few TikToks in the Paralympics, they might actually watch it. And all of a sudden, 5,000, 10,000 views are on there.
Yeah.
If you're able to get more of a spotlight, for instance, look at the NBA. They're constantly posting things on social media and they're building a brand and they're building an identity. And that way we can produce that in not only just wheelchair basketball, but in disability sport, disability life. Like, for instance, using the social media platforms like TikTok. Like, I don't know about you guys, but every now and then there's a TikToker who's, someone with quite serious disabilities making a TikTok page about their daily lives. And they've got a few 100,000 followers on there.
Yeah, it goes viral sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. And it's like, now all of a sudden we're getting this visibility in life. Like, it's not just this stereotype, someone you see on TV, someone you see in a supermarket that you're afraid to talk to. All of a sudden these guys have got personalities. They're the people behind the wheelchairs. They're no longer just someone who's in a wheelchair.
Yeah, the content that I've seen of you, Joel, when Joel first showed me your Instagram, I was impressed because main things that stuck out were your meal plans.
Yeah.
Like, there's thousands of Tupperware as well.
No, there was like 60. It's like the most extreme meal plans I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And that, I was very impressed by that. And yeah, you do stories of like 5:30 in the gym or something. So that then communicates to me as someone who's got his head together, he's got his life together, and he's competent, and is someone that I want to follow. So I think that what you're doing there is great.
Yeah, I think with that it's slightly different. Like with my Instagram, I do post a lot on there, and I'm trying to build kind of a brand behind my name. Like I want to be a vocal point in the disability community. I want to be able to project things that are important to me. And with my degree, I'm learning that the best way to do that at the moment is through social media. So if I'm able to kind of get ahead of the crowd, get people listening to me, then hopefully I can be able to voice important things coming up in the future.
Yeah, because that's something I've kind of dabbled with the idea of doing, because like it's another corner of my life that a lot of people don't see, is that I take what I do on YouTube very seriously. Like a lot of time and effort goes into what I do on there, and I thought like let me see, is that the right phrase? I don't know, like I thought it would be good to do what I do there on my Instagram and build a brand through that. And there's always this wall that stops me of like, oh, but Joel, people don't give a shit about the fact that you're on a basketball court at 7 a.m. on Monday. But like maybe I should just give a shit and do it for me.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
But I think I do get that as well, but it's not necessarily about people caring, but it's about keeping them engaged. So instead of just posting a picture of a basketball court, get a video of you shooting in the hoop. Like that's much more engaging. And yeah, you're not going to break down walls in 2 days or 2 weeks or even years. But if you're able to show a platform of you building over a period of time, then all of a sudden kids coming through the system who seen videos of you 6 years ago, they're thinking, oh, okay, I want to be like him, and he's 21, 22, and I'm only 12, but there are photos and videos of him playing at this time.
You know what's funny? There's a relevant anecdote to that. It's like, I remember being maybe 13 and seeing Joe Bestwick's videos on Instagram of him showing his home court and how he shot like 88% from mid-range, taking 1,000 shots or something. Yeah. And I'm playing him tomorrow. Yeah. Like that for me was quite a weird, surreal thing, especially the first time I played Jags last season, because he was one of the wheelchair basketball guys I followed when I first got Instagram. It was like him, Phil Pratt, Greg Warburton, Pat Anderson, Steve Syria, like that. That was it basically, and Terry. You know? Yeah, definitely. And then it's true. So yeah, that's a nice way of thinking about it. Like there are going to be 10 to 13-year-old Joels and Georges in our position.
Also, like matron care as well. Like adds your personality, your niche into it, and like you said, making more awareness about. Then you make more awareness about the sport to normal people.
Yeah, that's it. Because as much as we can joke about like the amount of Tupperware you have and that, when I see that, I'm like, shit, I need to sort my diet out. Look at George, the amount of bolognaises and tuna pastas he's got on there. Like, do you know what I mean? So it's true, I guess. Yeah, no, it is. So maybe I think about that a bit more. And it's like even if it's just small things, like you could turn it on and just talk about your day, talk about the fact you got a podcast coming up. Then if people like hear your voice, they see your face, then all of a sudden you become distinguished to an extent where, there's a lot more views than likes. That's what people have got to realise, is that a lot of people watch your content but it doesn't come up. Like, for instance, you always get less likes than you do views. And it's like, it's not trying to be this flashy influencer living a perfect life. You'll just be trying to, for me anyway, it's just trying to be someone who's in the space, trying to progress, trying to show people that it's possible.
Authenticity as well.
Yeah. It's hard as well. But I find it quite hard when I found this with my YouTube massively. You make stuff and it's really hard to avoid not then playing into the social media game and making sure that your intentions with it stay pure and stay clear, because if then it becomes like optimizing it for views, etc., then it kind of sucks the fun out of it. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Definitely. And it's like I do completely agree with you there. And it's like, I think, okay, worst comes to worst, this thing doesn't go anywhere. So what? So I've posted, last 3 years of my life. Brilliant. Then when I'm 30, when I'm 40, when I'm 50, I can look back, wow, this is what I was doing. That's it. Like all it is at the end of the day is like a slideshow. Like for when I'm old and, in a retirement home somewhere, like at least I can look back at this and see that that's what I was doing. That's it. With our generation, we're going to have that when we're like 70, 80 years old. We can look back at what we did at 18. Yeah. That's crazy. That's my main motivation for this podcast is I don't care where it goes or what it does. Yeah. Me and him are still going to be chatting when we're like 80. Yeah. About life. and we'll think back to how stupid we were at 19.
Definitely, but not even 80. Like imagine when we're 30, 40,
That's
and
it.
you know we've reached wherever we are in our careers, and we look back at a podcast, and maybe even do a new one. You know,
That's it.
and it's like we think back and we talk about the way we thought. You know, being 20 and 21.
Does the future excite you?
Yes, definitely. I think where I am at the moment, I'm in like an intermission type. Like I know the next year, the next 2 years, I know where that's going to be. But then there's a bit of unknown past that, which I'm really excited for.
What is that when your degree at Worcester ends?
Yeah, exactly. Like where I end up, for instance, you know, what career I choose, where I go in the world, what I've got planned. It's very open, and I'm excited for that, to think about it.
What are those kind of options at the moment that you're looking at or thinking about?
I think there's, you know, I hate to say it's limitless, but you know, there's a lot of things I could do, and I'm someone who doesn't like making long-term goals. I like focusing, you know, on one step at a time. You know, if I can wake up and do my sessions and do my revision and, you know, get good results on the short term, I know that that's ultimately going to benefit me in the long run. So I'm not going to come here and tell you what I'd like to, well, you know, some flash goal, because I don't think that far. I just think day to day, because for me, that's easier and that's better for my discipline. Because, for instance, let's say, okay, I want to be a millionaire by 30. It's like, that doesn't make you any more motivated or any more disciplined to do the daily tasks, to get out of bed, to make a bed, you know, to get your food prep, because, you know, that's not the end goal. That's not making you money.
Yeah.
But in matter of fact, if you just take a day at a time, you're becoming more disciplined, more organized, you're focusing more on your mental well-being. That's going to benefit you in the long run for me.
Have you read Atomic Habits by James Clear?
I haven't, no.
It's that book that everyone says, have you read that? Have you read that? But he says, you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. And I think that encapsulates that idea a lot. It's like, so true. You can just have this big target in the future, like, I want to do this. It's like, okay then. Well, everyone can say that.
Yeah.
But can you say, instead of going, I want to do this and be here in 10 years, it's like, okay, tomorrow I'm going to wake up at this time, do this, do this, do this, do this, then go to bed.
Yeah. And
that sounds like really like boring, but that's how you get to that big target.
Definitely.
That's just the boring shit that people don't want to eat.
Yeah.
You know?
And it's like, this is what I always think about. I don't think it's motivation. Like, I don't think that's the big factor. It's the discipline. Because motivation is doing something when you're motivated and when you're happy to do it. Discipline is getting up when it's dark, when it's going to an extra training session. It's not eating, you know, a chocolate bar, it's eating your meal prep. Like, that's the real effort there, is the discipline, to understand that you're doing this for the benefit of future. You know, it's like revising for an exam. You know, motivation, I suppose, is just doing the exam, but discipline is doing the revision sessions, building up to the exam, so then you're more prepared.
Motivation's like an emotion, whereas discipline's an act.
That's it. I mean, I always said, come up with this maxim that, like, I sort of want to get it tattooed on my wrist, but I think that's quite cringe as well, because it's like...
What tattoo?
This idea that I came up with.
Yeah.
It's probably an idea that someone else had, but for me, I came to it myself. And it sounds very just trivial and shit, but to me, it makes sense from my own experience, which is like, the work is the reward. Like, that's what it's about, right? Because I felt that massively with my A-levels. Like, I tried really hard, especially through year 12, absolute bum sweat, probably because, like, I just didn't really like the social scene that I was around, so I basically just worked.
Yeah.
And I did the best you could possibly do, right, in my A-levels, and I was in Rotterdam with the boys at a campsite, got the email of my results, looked at it, went, oh, great, and that was it.
Yeah.
And that was 2 years of, like, I had like a spreadsheet where I tracked my hours of revision for each subject, and it's like 10 hours of revision outside of class every week for 2 years to 10 minutes of, do you want to have a bacon sandwich, Joel? I've got one on the barbecue. Like, yeah, great. And I just realised, like, it's not about that at all. It just isn't whatsoever. The work is the reward.
Wasn't it like 10 minutes of satisfaction?
That's it. 10 minutes of a little dopamine increase, and then it's like, all right, we're waiting for dinner. Like, that's it. And that's 2 years of work. So what the hell?
But that work, that grind that you put out, having that discipline will then help you when you achieve university studies, or when you go into a job. Or
it's made this year so easy.
Yeah.
Because this year is basically just A-level stuff. So I'm just like, I don't even feel like I'm in an education system right now. I just show up to a room where they tell me things I already know.
Yeah.
I'm like, what's going on? And everyone else is flapping about the exams we've been doing this week. I'm like, what's going on, guys? Like, honestly, but it's a nice thing as well, because it's made me realise that my goals aren't actually what I want.
Yeah.
Like the carrot at the end of the stick, I don't want to reach that carrot.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just enjoying the race. I'm enjoying chasing after it.
Yeah.
Same with basketball. Same with YouTube. Like, I don't care about whether I play for GB or not.
Mm-hmm.
I genuinely don't.
Yeah.
I just like playing basketball, and I like getting better. And I like having good games and just playing well. I'm playing with my team, and I like making videos about things I'm interested in, and that's the reward.
Yeah.
Is what you do.
Yeah.
And that's the complete reframe that I think I wish people had. That, like, when people ask me, like, you're just so motivated, I'm like, I'm just doing what I want to do.
Yeah.
It's like, even you said to me, Jake, the other day, talking about like sacrifices, and like, how do you feel making sacrifices or sacrificing, like, because I don't really live the life that most 19-year-old boys live.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, it doesn't really feel like a sacrifice, because I'm doing what I want to do.
Yeah.
So yeah, and that's why I sort of wanted to get you here and have this conversation, and why I'm more friendly with you than maybe other people in our community is because I think you have that as well.
Mm-hmm.
You know, is that true or is that bullshit?
Yeah, no, it's completely right. Like, the more I post on social media, the more people ask me that question. Like, it's, you know, why aren't you going out partying? You know what I mean? The night before a game, or why aren't you doing something that you shouldn't do? You know what I mean? And it's like, well, I enjoy being I enjoy going to the gym. I enjoy, you know, building myself to be better in the future. Because like we said previously, it's like you think back to the times where you weren't that, and, you know, building yourself into being someone better, for me, is the best sense of reward. Like, I know, you know, even if I have 2 terrible sessions in a row, like my day, like, it's not a good day, I know that I've turned up for those sessions. I'm going to eat my meal prep, I'm going to recover, and I'm going to do it again tomorrow. And it's that reassurance, if I consistently attack this, that it's going to benefit me in the long run, instead of having 1 or 2 sessions a week where you either play well or you either don't. If you then grind every day, that's going to benefit you in the long run.
Yeah, the game changes. You know, for me, it went from fortnight wins to going to the gym. Like, and really, like, I have this theory. I called it the demon hypothesis. Made a video about it. That, like, everyone has demons in their own mind that are whispering to them all the time about the things that they are insufficient in, and the ways that they are worse than everybody else, and how they're not enough, right? Everyone has those voices, and we all have addictions that numb that voice or kind of shout back at that demon voice in your mind.
Yeah.
And I think the crack addict and the guy who, like the athlete, they're sort of fueled by the same thing.
Yeah.
They just have a different outlet for it.
Yeah.
And I think that's a nice way of thinking about it, is like discipline and doing the things that we need to do, even though they're hard and undesirable at points, they become the new fun. Like, I said it to Jacob, literally just as we were running up that hill at the end of that forest, and we got in the car, and I'm like absolutely exhausted, and like breathing super heavy and like dying, my quads are screaming. I'm like, there's no better feeling than that.
Yeah.
There's no better feeling.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, I would rather be nowhere else than sat in that car seat dying after doing that.
Yeah. I have that all the time. Like, where I live by the beach, and it's like, for instance, I do it all the time. Christmas Day swim or Boxing Day swim. It's like, you know, there are hundreds of people walking, you know, back and forth in front of the beach, and there's no one in the water. And, you know, for me, it's like, I know I'm experienced in cold water, so I know how to resist the cold water shock. You know, I just go in there, I have a swim, you know, it's a great dopamine hit, and like, all of a sudden you just feel like you can achieve anything. And it's like, why not? Like, if I know how to do things, and if I can do that to stop the voices, that's what I call them. It's the same. The voices. If I can just do that, then I know that everything else is going to be okay.
Life's about killing your demons.
It is, man. That's all we do every day. We wake up and they're there again, shouting at me. Do you know what I mean? And I've got to do a few things, and then they shut up for a while I sleep. You know what I mean? But yeah, no, the cold water is an interesting one, because I think that's a symbol of the rest of it, where everyone finds it. You've got people, when you say like, oh, I took a cold shower this morning, they either go, that's fucking sick, or they go, you're mental. They're the 2 responses.
Yeah.
And for me, that's people who like get the discipline thing, and they get that the work is a reward, and the people that are like, nah, discomfort's not a good thing. I need to avoid it.
Yeah.
You know? So Yeah.
What's your tactic, or how do you deal with the cold water?
Well, I will say I have grown up swimming. So like, living by the beach, I spent my whole life just going to the beach, afternoons, weekends, things like that. That's just what my family and my circle do. But again, I see myself as quite a rational thinker. Like, okay, it's water. Okay, it's a temperature. I know that within 10 minutes I'm going to be back in a car, heated with hot chocolate, covered in layers and dry. So no matter what I do, I'm going to end up okay in the end. Like, and that's the way I kind of see life now. It's like, okay, I may be a bit stressed at the moment. Okay, I've got an intense basketball coming up, but I know that at the end of it, I'm still going to be at home, relaxed in my garden.
It's only temporary.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, and then all of a sudden, if you refigure your brain, it's no longer pain. Like for me, it's not pain. Like I don't find it harmful for me. Like I've experienced real pain. I had chronic pain for 6 years. I know what major pain is. For me, like just a bit of cold water shock, like that's okay because it's temporary. Like for everything that I do pretty much these days is temporary. Whereas I had chronic pain that was permanent. So if I can achieve something, if I can conquer chronic pain that's permanent, I can kind of conquer anything that's, just a short-term shock almost. That's the way I think deeply that I feel about things.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's kind of like you built that capacity for discomfort and pain involuntarily with your leg and with your chronic pain.
Yeah.
But then that's now actually become your blessing
Yeah.
as you've got older and as you've had these opportunities in sport and in life, where that is a huge competitive advantage. It's just the ability to endure what most people wouldn't.
Yeah, exactly. Like for instance, when you're at the gym and you've got like a team session and it's like, oh, my arms are really tired from the day before. People saying that. Where for me, it's like, yeah, like the muscles, they feel worked, but I never say that they're painful or whatever, because I don't see it as painful. I see it as good, because it means that I've worked those muscles. I've got the recovery that I've needed. And yeah, they're worked good. That means it will be better. You know what I mean? In the long run.
Do you read much?
I do, yeah.
Because have you read much stoicism stuff like
I don't read like that, no.
What do you read?
I often read kind of like, I really like watching sci-fi and reading sci-fi, because that way it's a good escape for me. Like I like reading the Harry Potter books, and I know it sounds silly, and the Lord of the Ring books, for example, like because when I need to get away from my life, it's nice to imagine just a completely different life. And like going into that sci-fi. So
well, the reason I ask is just like what you just said there is just absolutely the epitome of like stoicism. Have you heard of that kind of like?
No, I haven't. No.
Oh, so it's basically just like a branch of philosophy. Have you heard of guys like Marcus Aurelius and Seneca and all those lot? Right, it's their kind of teaching of like all we have is what we can control, which is our mind and our judgments and the way that we frame and perceive things and use our will and our actions is all that matters in life. And I feel like you've applied exactly the kind of things they're talking about to life, which is something I try and do as well. One thing I'm just personally interested in is like what a typical training day, training week looks like for George Gray at the moment.
What would you like, a training day or a training week?
Give me a day and then give me roughly across the week, like how many sessions you're doing. Like that's on the week. On a day, I want to know like when are you waking up, when are you going to bed, and what's the sandwich in between that? And then across a week, how many sessions are you doing, and does it change quite a lot? Like do you prep differently for a game week than like a different weekend, and how do you switch off those kind of things?
So, like I could sit here and tell you I train 6 hours a day, but and some days I may do, but it's very balanced. Like I get that I post a lot about my training, and I probably don't post enough about my rest and my off time, but I have a structured timetable where I've tinkered it to allow myself to get enough rest, I get enough off time, I get enough work time and enough training time. So, for instance, Monday mornings I'm up at 5:15 because I train 6 till 7 swimming. So I swim in the mornings.
And that's just for, what's the thought process behind that? Just cardio, like fitness? Or?
Yeah. So I swim for the uni, and it's just a bit of good. Not at the moment, but I will be
Really?
coming up. We've got varsity coming up, so I'll be competing then.
Little dolphin, man.
Yeah, yeah, something like that. Seaman. But yeah, like I train in the mornings. It just varies. I'll always have one session of basketball a day.
Every day.
Every day. Well, during the week.
Mm-hmm.
So it will be one session a day a week, and that can vary. That does vary a lot. It can either be my own session, it can be or a group session, or it can be like a Jaguars National League training, which is my Premier League team that I train with once a week. So that varies there. I'll get 4 gym sessions in a week, and then 1 circuit team session. So that's 5 gym sessions a week, and I'll swim 3 times a week.
Right, okay. So are there some days where you're swimming, lifting and balling in the same day?
Yes.
Right. Okay, and like how do you, because I'm trying to imagine that myself.
Mm-hmm.
Is that taxing? So in terms of like, say you've done 2 sessions and it's like mid-afternoon and you've got a bit of work to do for uni, or you've got to cook this massive bolognese for your 60 boxes of Tupperware. Like, surely, because I find I have days where I do gym and basketball, and if I've done both of those, and then it's like 4 p.m, I'm kind of done. Am I being a pussy? And how do you navigate that?
No,
I'm interested.
Not in this, not at all, mate. You're not at all. It's like when I say I go to the gym and when I say I go play basketball, it's like it's all about balance for me. It's like, for instance, I'm not going to lift like a really heavy gym session. I have a really good strength and conditioning team at Worcester Uni that fully support me, and it's like we've got it down to like a T. Where if I've got, for instance, okay, let's do this. So let's say it's a normal Wednesday, right? So Wednesday I wake up, I'll then go to the gym, I'll then have a team session, and then I'll also have a Jaguars training session.
What's a team session? Sorry.
So a team session is like a vary of women's Premier League players with some Worcester University players, and a couple others sometimes. And then I'll then drive 2 hours to Nottingham or to Newark to play for Jaguars, and then I'll drive 2 hours back. I don't get back till 12:30 at night. But come Thursday, I have about 12 hours off, and I make sure that that's completely off. So away from training, away from working, just a complete rest period. That way, I can vary it. So then, my sessions in Thursday are in the evenings, and I won't swim. Swimming is only Tuesday, Monday, and a Friday, to allow myself those busier days, the Wednesday and Thursday, to just focus on basketball. And then obviously come Thursday, I've rested for 12 hours, maybe at 13 hours, and then I'll just have a light gym session with a team session. So that way I still get that rest. It's just, on paper it sounds far more constraining than it actually is, because
the intensity is managed.
Yeah, exactly. Like I'm not going for PBs every single session, and I'm not coming on a Wednesday trying to smash my PB, because I know that for the next day I'm going to be working really hard and I'm going to be really tired. And it's okay. And like if it's game week, if I've got a game on a Saturday, and I've got a training session and I've got swimming and I've got a lift session, come the swim session, I'm just going to take it really slowly. I'm going to loosen up my body, make sure, I'm not going to be exploding for a new timed record. The gym session, it's just going to be about activating the muscles. It's not going to be about trying to build muscle, trying to build strength. It's just going to be about activating. And then come to the basketball session, it's just going to be able to get my shots up, feeling loose, making sure my straps are okay. Okay, I'll get, 500 shots up or something like that until I feel comfortable. Then I know come Saturday, I wake up and I feel really like I've prepped myself, prepped my body, prepped my chair, got my car ready, packed my bag. So then I can just turn up and have a good game without other worries.
Yeah, man, I like that.
Is it the Thursday, like your rest day, where you do all your meal prep for the next 2 weeks? Yeah, so
I definitely I get this out there. When I meal prep, it's a meal prep day. Like
a whole day of cooking.
No. When I meal prep, that's the only thing I'll do. I'm not going to juggle training with meal prep. So I'll meal prep on a weekend, so a Saturday or a Sunday, and that'll be a very lazy day. So I wake up, late, make sure I have a good lie-in, maybe go for a walk, something like that, and then I'll go, spend some money at the, to Asda, get some food prep, and then come back, play some music, and just relax and just talk with my flatmates, have a couple of mates over, and just cook some food. Go from cooking, and it's not as bad as people say. I get that it looks a lot on Instagram.
Meme, isn't it? It's
Yeah, but it's like you cook. What I'm doing is I'm still cooking the same amount as everyone else is, except from I'm just doing it in one go.
Yeah.
So that way, when I finish training at 8:00 and I get home at 8:15 in the evening, I can put that in the microwave for 8 minutes and then shower. And then by the time I've come out the shower and got changed, there's a great spag bowl.
It's very efficient.
Like, it's perfect. And then I wash up the Tupperware box and put it in the box, and that's fine. And then I can go on. And then all of a sudden, instead of spending half an hour, 40 minutes cooking food, I've then got it ready for like no time. Then it allows me to have more off time. If I need to go do another revision session or go play Xbox with the boys or go, meet up with my friends, that's yeah.
How does that compare to how you train for basketball and gym?
Well, up until I see smiling George. Up until maybe, I don't know, August this year, basketball was just a crack in it with the boys. Let's go and shoot some hoops and stuff. It was only really until this summer where I started, because I guess actually no, that timeline's wrong. It wasn't like I didn't care and then I suddenly cared.
But it was more of a casual thing.
So when I was 14 until lockdown, I was training 4 nights a week.
Yeah. 2
individuals, 2 with the team.
Yeah.
That was good. But that's when I was still like, I want to go abroad and all this. I want to play basketball. Lockdown came, basketball got taken away, and I just kind of fell out of love with it.
Yeah.
I really did, and for about a year and a half, I just wasn't that interested. I do my team session, 1 night a week. We play some games in Div 2. We have a laugh.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That was it. And then I just think I think what it was actually was people started believing in me a bit more, and then I started believing in myself.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of people in a lot of parts of life actually where you say you're not serious about something because you're worried that if you say you're serious about it and then it doesn't work out, you're failing essentially.
Yeah.
I think that might have been a factor. Was I was just like, but I'm not, because always, George, this is an insight into Joel Clifton's psychology. I was always the shit one.
Okay.
In the region I was in
in what aspect are you saying you're the worst one in?
So you look at who I was friends with,
in
inverted commas, in our age group at that time.
Within the basketball community?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
School-wise, I was always like the guy, but basketball-wise, okay. I wasn't the guy.
Yeah.
I was always about a year and a half younger than everyone else.
Yeah.
If you look at our under-22 team now, I'm kind of this weird middle ground age between you lot, who are all about a year and a half older, and then the other lot who are about a year and a half younger than me. I'm kind of in this middle slot. But the knife edge was just after me, so I was still counted with you guys, and I was always shitter. So like the Southwest Warriors team, where we had a good season, got to Elite Eights, we won regionals, right, under 19s. I sat on the bench the whole time.
Yeah.
That felt like nothing to me. And when like, you must have had it at points where your team does well and wins something, and people expect you to be really happy about it.
Yeah.
You're like, I just sat on the bench.
Yeah.
I just watched. So that crushed my confidence. That did, and that's when I was sort of like, basketball was just, Dan and Oscar are going to do what they're going to do. I'm just going to play, and I'm happy with that. And then this year that slightly changed a bit because the reality that maybe I could do X, Y, and Z over the next few years has come in and been like, okay, Joel, take it, a little bit more seriously. But to go back to your question, so I do my Plymouth session on a Thursday for 3 hours. That's important that I get to. And then I sometimes train with Exeter to get extra coaching, and then I do about 3 individual basketball sessions outside of that, and then I go to the gym like 3 or 4 times as well. So not as much as Mr. Gray here.
I will say on that, Joel. I will say on that is that we grew up together playing basketball. We started in the under-14 program, eventually came through. You claim that you're saying you're the worst one. That wasn't the case. You were younger, so therefore the other players were more developed.
But that's what my mum would always say. She was like, they're just older than you, Joel. I'm like, yeah, I get that, Mum, but I still feel shit.
But have you noticed how that you've realised now that no longer you see yourself as the younger one, the less developed one, and now all of a sudden you've been brought into the under-23 program? It's because, like, it wasn't because you were the worst one. You definitely weren't there. Like, we had players that were bigger and were older. That's all it is.
Yeah.
It's, for instance, if me and you were to play against 26-year-olds who've been playing pro for the last 5 years. We're not going to be able to compete there. But then when we compete against ourselves, let's say we were to go back in time and play me and you against 2v2 against me and you when we were 17 years old, we'd smash them. So it's really just about like a development and a graph. Like you were just further back in the graph than we were, and that's because we were older and bigger. That's all it was.
I know that's what it was. Like I can visualize that and be rational and think that's what it was.
Because if you look back at that program, there are players now who you were on the bench for that you're far better than now.
Yeah, my ego likes it when you say things like that, George. But that's
but it's not even ego though. It's just straight fact. Like,
but I find it hard, feeling like that's true, because I still have 12-year-old Joel in my mind that still feels like the shit one. Yeah, always.
But you realise that you'll actually work with that. That actually helps you. Like that makes you graft. That makes you put in that extra push. You know what I mean? Like where are the players that were given it their whole career from 12 onwards that are really lacking now because they didn't have that push. They got the spot. They got the the trophy. They got they had their whole junior career, all the spots that they wanted. They didn't have to work for it. Whereas similar to me at the beginning of my career, that I was on the bench. I was never the one being selected for camps. I had to graft for everything. I was a reserve for most of my junior career, apart from regionals. But because we had that at a young age, that gives us that nitty gritty that we want to work hard, that we're willing to get in the dirt and really cover ourselves to get there. Whereas the players now, you find, especially at this level, that have had it easy, all of a sudden they have a bit of adversity and they fall off. You know what I mean? And then they're not as willing to graft as it's a different type of grafting at this point to get to the next level for us. And it's like usually they'll just drop off the sport, and it's because it stopped being fun, because they've stopped winning, or because it stopped being easy, that the other guys like me and you have caught up to them, and we're willing to work harder. And some people respond good to that, and some people don't. But that's how it is, I think.
You're like an underdog.
Mate, that's fired me up. I like the underdog, yeah. I do like that. And then it's more gratifying when you have good moments. Yeah.
But you've got to, I think for me, you've got to learn that as an underdog, because I feel like I've been an underdog in terms of my basketball career as well so far, is you're never going to get that appreciation. No one's ever going to go up to you and go, you know what, mate, you've grafted hard over the last 6 years. Like, you have to learn to give that to yourself. Like, and for me, I always look back 2 years ago, the player that I was, forget the team, forget whatever, but the player I was to the player I am now. Like, that's what I try and do, is look back and then see the development that's taken place in the last 2 years and be proud of myself for that. Yeah. But then also see how far I can get if I keep going.
Then that's one thing I can see in you. I remember you, 2 or 3 years ago in the team that you're in, the position you're in, the player that you are now. And I know that's just been like white knuckle, like nose to the grindstone. Let's do it.
Yeah, because I'll comfortably come on here and say I don't feel like some players are very talented. Like for me, I don't see myself as talented. Like everything I've got now in all aspects of my life is because I've worked for it.
I'll tell you this, right? Every person I speak to about basketball, when your name comes into the conversation, they always say the same phrase. So he's a workhorse.
Yeah.
That is the word that is used in like multiple people across different teams that I wouldn't think were really that similar. They all say George is a workhorse. George is a workhorse. That's it. And like that's nice, because you wouldn't say that about people who are just naturally talented, just can shoot the lights out. Yeah. And they don't really have to have that mentality.
Yeah.
So I think in the long run, that's what you want.
And it's like I'm definitely like. What's important for me, especially this year, last 2 years, is I'm learning not to compare myself. Like, I can't compare. I used to, and as most kids do, is you compare yourself against the players on the other team, or you compare yourself against the team that you're on the bench for. Whereas for me, I'm on my own journey, and like everyone can judge me for my own journey, but it's really just about me getting better on and off the court. Like, and when you have that mindset, everything for me becomes a lot easier. Like, I'm just going to work. Like I'm going to turn up to in the off season to any training sessions that are going to benefit me. I'm going to do what I can to be better, and I'm going to do everything I can off court to make on court life easier. And hopefully, it'll end up where I want it to end up. But just because players are more talented than I am. Like I really don't even factor it in, because the position that I'm in, I'm a 4-pointer, which is like standard wise a big man. I'm only 6'2". I'm not the biggest guy on the floor, so I have to find ways to be useful, to get into lineups, to be on the right team, without just having like natural ability or talent as to size. If I can't be the biggest guy to catch a rebound, well, I can beat the biggest guy by getting the right position on the rebound. So if I learn my shooters' shots when they miss, what positions they can do in, I can get the right position and I get the rebounds. There's a lot of times where I feel like I'm not the biggest guy, but I still get good rebounds. And that's because of my positioning, which is the hard work and the grit that I've developed.
Yeah. And I think having that mentality of like kind of you versus you and not caring about what other people are doing actually helps your performance as well.
Yeah.
Like I found that it's weird that I would train less than loads of people and have a better season.
Yeah.
Just because I didn't really care that much.
Yeah.
And the people that like really cared about how they were performing sort of overthought it in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
And like I find when I don't think about my shot, I shoot better.
Yeah.
Like in games, you don't think, you play the game.
Yeah.
In training, you think too much about what you're doing,
mm-hmm.
and that's why you sometimes goes worse. So like, I know it sounds paradoxical, but what I'm trying to do now is take basketball more seriously without taking basketball more seriously.
Yeah.
So it's like the lifestyle looks like, damn, this guy takes it really seriously, but the mindset is like, it's fun, it's let's play.
And that's what I'm learning as well. Like growing up, I was a very intense, very emotional, very physical guy. Whereas now I'm learning, like you said, to have all of that mindset. And I probably come off very intense just because that's kind of how I feel like I come off. But it's also about taking a breath, relaxing, turning up on game day and having a smile on my face.
Soaking it in.
Like that's what I'm trying to do, is really just be in the environment, and just like play how you play. Like you just said, you don't think about it when you shoot. You play.
So how would you not think about it when you shoot? Like how would you go to achieving that?
I mean, like in a game, I've never experienced anything in my life like a basketball game. That's why I think I'm quite addicted to it. I feel like, and I don't know if you agree with me, George, but there's something like tribal that comes out. Because it's like you're going to a war in a way. It's not like we're going to shoot each other with guns, but it is a war.
Yeah.
It is two armies against one another with this objective to put this spherical object into that spherical object more times than them. Yeah. So something in me comes out of like, right, we're playing a game now, it's war, let's do this. Do you know what I mean? And that rush, that adrenaline, like you don't even feel like you're exercising.
Yeah.
I must burn 1,000 calories in a game. You just don't feel it whatsoever. Like if I had to burn 1,000 calories on a rowing machine, that'd be horrific.
Yeah.
That'd be horrible. In a game, you don't feel it because your body thinks you're at war or something, or like
it's the adrenaline.
You're fighting another tribe. That is what it feels like.
Yeah.
So what did you ask me? Why I don't think when I'm shooting? because you're in this fugue state of like, right, you're not thinking about the shot.
Kind of like flow state.
Yeah, that's it, 100%.
And I think
just in flow the whole time.
And I think
whips by.
For players, you speak to any of the players in GB, like who play for the Paralympics, is they'll tell you when they're in their flow state, like it's there's this quote, a lion hunting zebras doesn't look at the flies around all of its eyes and things like that. It's focused on the zebra, and it's like flow state. I get there sometimes. I try and get there all the time, but I don't. But it's like nothing. You're only looking at the basket, and you just know it's going in. And it's like you just have full confidence in yourself and the team and your own ability. And it's like Joel's saying, nothing else matters, because that's, it's not even like it's the most important thing. It's the only thing.
Yeah.
It's like
you become the basketball game.
And
I'm no longer Joel Clifton anymore.
Yeah.
We're just trying to get the ball in the hole.
So is it kind of mindset how you get to flow state?
Yeah, it's harder. You just force.
That's the big question. But like basketball's a rhythm game, so players shoot hot. That's a phrase which means like they shoot well.
Yeah.
Like they get 3 or 4 shots of hot streak, that kind of thing. And it's like that's how you do really well, is get good cycles, because it goes back and forth with different players and different teams. But any player will want to be in perfect flow state as much as they can. And yeah.
So maybe practice and.
Yeah, well, practicing at high intensity. I mean, I don't think there is a scientific answer for it. I think it's just, each individual person has different ways of reaching it, and sometimes it's just in the moment.
I think you have to train hard and get your skills and your body into that level of conditioning that you need. But then when you're in the game and it's time to perform, you just trust in what you've done. So you don't try in a game in a way. Like you try in training, but when you get to the game, you just play.
Yeah, I think it's weirdly just like you're saying, but I think it's just fully mental. Like you're saying, you don't think, "Am I going to hit this shot?" Like you don't even think, "I'm going to score this shot." You just
throw the ball.
You just know it's going in, and it's like it's almost having the self-belief from yourself, but also the team and the environment and the game. And I think it's all psychology, in my opinion.
Maybe it's like the proof from all the practicing.
That's it. You need that. Otherwise, if you don't think you're going to score, you won't score.
Yeah.
And I had that once. I had a game like, what was that, 2 years ago against High Rollers in Div 1. I love playing against High Rollers. Like one of the best teams to play against, right? And that game was mental. I think it ended 73-76 to us.
Oh, yeah.
Just ridiculous. Both teams in 70 points away at High Rollers. And it was 74-73 to us, and there was like 6 seconds left or something. And like 2 things happened in that game which helped my mindset a lot after that. One was we had an inbound on the sideline after a timeout, I think. Yeah. And Jack Gibbs points to me and goes, "Don't let him have the ball. He's the best shooter." Right, and for an opposition to say that to you, you're like, "Oh God!"
Yeah,
like, your ego's straight there. You're loving that shit, and then like, "Right, give me the fucking ball." So like, I was like, "Give me the ball in the inbound." They fouled me. I had 2 free throws. Yeah, it's like this is to seal the game, because if you miss both, if you miss one, they get a chance to level it the next play. Yeah, if you miss both, they could win. Yeah, so it's like you got to hit both these free throws. But because Jack Gibbs had said to me, "Don't give him the ball. He's the best shooter on the team," I knew I was going to hit both those free throws. And then I was going up to those free throws, and I was like, "I'm going to score," and I hit both. Yeah. And it's like I knew before I'd taken those free throws that I was going to hit them. But then I've had it in moments in games before when you're like, "Oh, I'm the worst person on the team," or you've missed a few shots in a row. Like I had it against Manchester this year at home. Yeah. Billy Bridge in my ear the whole game. Yeah. I missed my first 3 shots. He's like, "Now we'll let him have this one. It's fine, boys. Don't worry." I was so cold that game. Yeah. Because he made me feel that way. It was like in my body, I couldn't get into that flow because I was like, no, I've missed a couple. Like you stay. So it's all, like you say, it's all a mind game, and it's all about momentum. So what you're saying is, at the next 22 GB under 22 competition, when I'm on the bench for you, I'm going to shout, "Oh, he's the best shooter. Better not let him shoot." That would help me then. But that's it. It is that, like in that tournament. If I like that, because I'll tell you what. Okay, so there was a tournament in Nottingham for the under 22 GB team, and we were playing Germany and a couple of other GB teams. And it was late in the game. It was a very close game. I think it was the Germany game. Remind me. Which one were we talking about here? The one where you took off in the last minutes. You absolutely kept us in the game. Okay, it was the Germany game, and third quarter against Germany. Yeah. Yeah, third, fourth quarter, and we weren't in our rhythm as a team. And we changed the lineups. I think a couple of players came on, and Joel came on, and all of a sudden he hit his first shot, and then like he hit his second shot, and then now I think about it, Joe Beswick, who's our coach, was shouting. Our call was on that lineup was get Joel the ball, basically, and Joel just kept shooting, and it ended up winning us the game. Like we stayed ahead, and we were up I think 6 or 8, but they kept scoring, so did we. So, that's because of Joel's hot streak, and we were all saying, "Yeah, come on, Joel, keep shooting." That's it, mate. And you were in flow state, like you weren't like in the timeouts, you weren't looking at us, you almost weren't listening, like you were there, and like I saw the coaches look at you, and like you obviously in that mode, and they were going to say something, and they just didn't, and like. And everyone's like, "Come on, Joel," and like you're just not registering it at all. You're just looking at that orange ring, going, "Ball now!" Straight in every time. But the thing is, there's so many factors to that might not have happened. Like, I went on in the second quarter and hit my first shot, right? Yeah. If I'd have missed that, and you do your little armband thing, clear your forehead on the transition, and then just straight up to the mismatch and sank it, mate. Yeah. But in that game, if I'd have missed that first shot, it could have been completely different. Yeah. And if we didn't give you that boost, like saying, "Come on, Joel, keep shooting it. You're the hot shooter," that kind of thing. It's the fact of like, so you've got 12-year-old Joel in my mind that thinks he's a shit one, right? And he goes in with that mentality. That tournament, I didn't think I was going to get played at all. Basically, I also thought there was still certain people in our age group that then weren't in our age group in my classification. And I was like, I'm just going to sit on the bench here and just go and have a good time. But then it was like, I'm actually playing now. Wasn't expecting that. Also, people who I thought I was shit are passing me the ball. And that's the first option on offense. That, to 12-year-old Joel in my head, his mind was absolutely blown. Didn't know what to do. So there was, that was massive. I think I'll look back on that tournament in my career, in inverted commas, as being like a big turning point.
Like a breakout kind of thing. Like you finally outgrown that shell of that under that junior league mentality of the older guys are better than me. Like all of a sudden you're on par or better. Like you were the leading standpoint in that game, and
But it's still hard. 12-year-old Joel's still there. He's one of my demons that doesn't really leave, and I think he'll be with me the rest of my life.
You hear him when you're taking free throws.
I do. Well, I hear him even like the first in December when we had that 22 training day and the pathway day. I was shit, and I drove back home. I was with Dan. I was like, Dan, I might not even get selected. Like I played awfully. I was like, we were sleep deprived. I shot awfully when I got the ball. I was like, what if September was just a fluke and I just had a good game? Because that's what I go to, because that's my baseline.
But then you've got to break that down. Like those camps, it's a tough 2 days. You don't get a lot of sleep. Like you're playing against different players. You're in different lineups. You're not being coached. You have different players on the block. You're working with different players. You're against different players. You're in a different mindset. Maybe it's a little bit more casual because it's just not just, but it's a training session. It's not a competition. You start breaking it down. Maybe you didn't get the food that you wanted. Maybe you're thinking about Christmas because it was like the weekend before Christmas. Everyone's tired. Everyone was, not ready for a competition, an international competition. So the best way I would say is break it down. Like, did you get the right sleep? Were you wearing the right clothes? Were you wearing the right pants? Like, whatever makes you feel comfortable. And it's like, then all of a sudden you start to realize, okay, was I fouled a couple of times? Yeah. Okay, did that knock me off? Okay, was I, was my left hand bleeding? Yeah. Was I not wearing my favourite sweatband? Those are the things that it's all rational. Like that's the thing with basketball. It's okay, the shooters didn't shoot well. Why didn't they shoot well? Okay, like for instance, we had a camp just a couple of weeks ago. It was a 2-day camp. On the first day, he shot lights out. He dropped, we played a scrimmage during the day and he scored absolutely everything. But then the next day, we rotated and we doubled him every time and he scored nothing, basically nothing. And he came over to me and was like, "Oh, George, why am I so shit today?" And I said to him, "It's not the case. It's because we've changed our lineup.
We had to change our defense because you played."
And all of a sudden, we were doubling and triple teaming you, which basically means that you play all the players on one player to make sure they don't get a shot away. And because of that, he didn't shoot or he didn't shoot well. And it's like, you can't blame yourself for that. That's because of it. Like, don't look at the stats and think, "Oh, I didn't shoot well." Stats are 2D. Basketball's a 3D game. So that's the way I see it.
Do you have like little superstitions and like things that you do to get your head in the game for a good training session or for a game as well? Like, do you have any routines and things like that?
No, I wouldn't say I'm about superstition at all. Like, I think I just try and keep it as light as possible. I do like being prepped. I do like knowing that everything is where it should be the night before. So, I'll always fill up with fuel before. I'd always pack my bag, make sure I've got all the right equipment and everything. Like, I'll make sure everything is ordered in the same way. When I come, on the bench, I make sure, or on the sideline, I have a chair, just like an actual chair, my wheelchair next to it, my bag behind it, my coat behind that, making sure that everything is prepped. My TheraBand's ready, my inhaler's ready if I need it, my water bottle's ready, some gel's ready. Just prepping myself and feeling like I've prepped. That way I'm feeling ready to go, basically.
Yeah.
Do you have any superstitions? Other than your sweatbands, of course.
See, sometimes I play with the sweatbands, sometimes I don't. If I have a good session without the sweatbands, I'm like, I don't need the sweatbands. But then if I have a good session with the sweatbands, I'm like, I do need the sweatbands.
Maybe it's not sweatbands.
I don't
maybe it's not the sweatbands. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah. But I think
you don't kiss a necklace or something like that.
No. But I know when I've got there in a game, when I've got to that place. But it's not every game. Certainly, it didn't happen against Manchester earlier in the year. That was not great. But no, I think music's key. In the car on the way there.
Yeah.
Some good classic pump-up tunes.
Yeah.
And I think the first quarter is huge. Like you think about, I don't know if you watched it, but our final against Jags last year, where we pushed them to only win by 8 points.
Yeah.
Where when we went to their place, they beat us by 40.
Yeah.
And Joe scored 52. Joe scored more than our whole team.
Yeah.
Right. The difference was in the first quarter we were firing. We all, like me, Oscar, Jordan, were all there. We were switched on. Whereas away at your place, Jordan had played poker the night before, so he was tired. And I shot badly early on. Dan lost his head, and I don't know what Oscar was doing. But they ran away with the game. Yeah. And that's the difference. Is like, how do you get yourself into that flow? And I don't think I can redo that pre-game. But I've got these smelling salts that I'm taking tomorrow that I tried against Manchester, and Dan wants them again because Dan had a good game against Manchester.
Smelling salts, wow.
Definitely the smelling salts. Have you ever tried them?
No, I haven't. But I thought they were.
I'm going to try some of these in a minute.
Hold on.
You are.
I thought, first of all, make sure they're drug friendly, UK sport friendly, of course. And then second of all, you think, sure, smelling salts. That's for powerlifters, isn't it? No, I'm not trying it on camera.
We did it on the camera the other week.
But I'm not trying substance up my nose on camera, lads. I'll be honest. No. But is that not for like powerlifting?
Yeah.
Like, but that's short term. So why? It's a 40-minute game. It takes like an hour and a half.
Like me and Dan, right? Aaron was doing the team talk just before the Manchester game. And we're like, I just got up. I was like, Dan, have a bit of this. He did like, and I had a bit. It was like, I'm gonna beat Martin Edwards on the tip. So I'm putting that down to the smelling.
You know what? That probably actually did make you.
I was like, come on, let's go now.
But just for the tip. That's what I'm going to say for the tip. That's probably what
I grew about 10 inches, I reckon.
I
jumped in my chair.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You probably tilted more than you ever would have after doing that smelling. So, yeah.
I want to pivot slightly and
talk
about, these are just like 2 questions where I'm just interested to what you would say. I want you to imagine George in 10 years' time, right, at 31. What advice do you think he would give you is question 1.
Okay.
And question 2 is why are you not doing it?
What would George Gray say to 31-year-old George Gray say to 21-year-old George Gray? It's hard to say. Like that's basically what you're asking me, is to look at what I'm not doing now. Right?
I think it's a good frame for people to look at things that they want to have done, but aren't currently doing. It's like, what would my older self look back and wish I'd done?
I think for me, it would probably be trying to be more content with my life. Like, I feel like sometimes I'm trying to chase too much. But I'm working on it. Like your follow-up question was why you're not doing it. I am. I'm working on trying to be more content, more happy, more smiley. Like, I don't think anyone in the basketball community would nickname me Smiley, would they? So yeah. Otherwise, I think it would just be trying to build myself and try and be more happy with day-to-day life, like more content.
It is a very hard question. Like, Joe asked it to me maybe a couple months ago. I didn't.
Didn't you say give me a while to think about it?
And I took about 2 minutes and gave a shit answer. I heard a similar thing the other day, and it's like with the idea of it's like infinite universes. There's a potential for you to meet you, and then it's like, what would it be like if you met you? What would they think? And I asked that about myself, and it's like,
wait, are you meeting another you at your age or an older you?
In my age.
Okay.
What would I think if I met me? And then I'm like, okay, depends on the contexts. Some contexts, I wouldn't like me, and it's like, why? And then it's like, because in some contexts I'm not the most friendly person on the first impressions, and then it's like, well, that's important because that can change the whole trajectory. It's the first time. So then it's like, how am I going to change that? And it's like, okay, I've got to be more friendly. So that's a similar answer, kind of, is like being more happy, being more content with
So
daily.
it reframed the way you interacted with people because you visualised how you'd interact with yourself.
Because that's what I thought about that question when you asked me. So it is a really important question, to be honest. And I'm going to throw it back at you because you haven't answered it.
Oh shit! I wasn't expecting that. Oh god. Joel at 29. Don't hold on so tight
To what?
to all. In terms of, I've spoken to you about this, Jacob, but it's kind of maybe my biggest lesson of last year as we came out of the year and I thought about this. Do you know who Alan Watts is, George?
No.
So he's like this English philosopher guy who converted Eastern religion and philosophy to a Western audience in like the 1960s. You'll definitely have heard some of his voiceovers because they're used on loads of stuff.
Sure.
But he has this idea that like the human experience is a massive fall to death, right? We are all falling to an eventual unavoidable end. But so is everything else. So is your personality, your belongings, your family, your friends, your achievements. They're all falling, right? So are you. And that's fine because that's just how it is. You can't change that. So what Alan Watts says, he just has the bit where he goes, why are you holding on so tightly? Because it's all falling anyway. Like you can still enjoy those things and you can still see them next to you as everything is falling. But why are you holding on? Why is there so much stress and anxiety and worry when at the end of the day it's all going to fall? And I think, for me, I think I'm going to get to where I want to get to anyway. So I don't need to worry about it. Because I know I've got the certain wiring in my brain that I have to show up every day and do the things I do to feel justified and for my head to hit the pillow at night and feel good. So I think maybe Joel in 10 years' time would turn around and say, like, look where I am. You did it. So just enjoy it.
Trust the process.
That's it. Like, you don't, there's no, I hate uncertainty. It's one of my things. I hate it. I hate in my interpersonal relationships, in my work, in basketball, even in like the decision of like, oh, what am I going to eat later? Like, I want to know. I want certainty. What's happening? When? What time? With who? How?
And why is that?
Yeah. Why do I think that is? I hold on to control a lot. It's one of my defense mechanisms. I think when my mental health is bad, I go like autism routine mode.
Okay.
That's what I did in lockdown anyway.
So what do you mean by that?
So my mum thought I had OCD.
Okay.
Because like lockdown started, school gone, basketball gone.
Yeah.
My two things basically that I did. Broke up with the girlfriend that I was with, so didn't have that either. It's like I wasn't in a great place and my control had gotten so much uncertainty. And I had two choices really. It was like play Fortnite all the time or go routine mode, monk mode, right?
Yeah.
Which is kind of what I did. And when I think back to like who I was back then, I don't know how I did it. Like I would wake up at 6 a.m. and do Wim Hof breathing. I don't know if you know what that is. Then a 40-minute meditation, then a cold shower. Then I'd like eat breakfast, but with like no music or podcast. I'd just make porridge and eat the porridge. And then I'd like do like 3 hours of work on my GCSEs. Then I'd do like a homework in my room. And I used to push myself so much that like there would be a puddle of sweat on this yoga mat where I could see my own reflection. And then I'd maybe go for a walk around the local area, come home, do a bit more work, and then I'd maybe relax and get on Discord with Oscar for an hour before dinner.
Yeah.
That was every day for like 6 months. And my mum was concerned.
Yeah.
She was like, who the hell is my son becoming? Because this was not the kid that was a few months ago.
Yeah.
So that's probably why, because when I feel like if I don't feel like I can control my life, then I try and double down on that and then I actually kind of secluded myself quite a lot because I cut myself off from the friend group I had at school that I used to play video games with, and I didn't really have any new friends in my new way of life. For about a year and a half, it was just me and Oscar.
Yeah.
That's all I had. And I had good mates. I was quite popular back in school, but that just wasn't me anymore.
Yeah.
that's not the guy who I want to be. So yeah, that's why I think the certainty thing, 'cause it's my blanket is like control and work, which is like, that's why I've said this before. In sixth form, I used to get it where you get your test back and people would be like not happy with what they got, and they see what I got and they go, oh, I really wish I got that and could be you. It's like, would you though? Like, okay, you want the grade on my test, that's fine, but do you want my Saturday morning where I did 2 hours of revision, whereas you went out on a Friday night with your friends and then had a lie-in?
Yeah.
Like, if I could do what you do, that'd be quite fun probably, but I wouldn't be able to enjoy it. Yeah. Because there's what needs to be done on Saturday morning. So yeah, that's the way. Anyway, I've gone on a long tangent there, but I think 10 years on, Joel would say, you don't need to hold on so tight. You're going to do those things anyway. Just be more fluid with it. It's play. That's one other thing that Alan Watts says. And then Shakespeare said it, all the world's a stage. It's a dance. That's one of Alan Watts' big things, right? Life's a dance. Yeah. Right? When you're doing a tango, right? You're not thinking about the outcome of the dance. You're dancing, right? Yeah. The song's going to end. Or a great piece of music, right? I'm really into classical music at the moment. It's one of my weird things, especially like in the gym. Yeah. Listening to like French opera. Such a weird don, but I love it, man. And it's just like, you're not thinking about when the song will end. Yeah. You're just enjoying the music. So maybe just Joel at 29 would say, enjoy the music. Enjoy the dance. Yeah. You know?
That's a great answer. That's a genuinely great answer.
But these are the things I think about, George. This is the corner of my life that you don't see. This is what I said to Jacob when we were in the forest. I was like, I'm looking forward to George Gray seeing me outside of a sporting context.
No, it's great.
And seeing who I actually am.
Because when we do turn up to basketball events, like we have a 10-minute conversation maybe, like warming up. And it's like just so much behind your eyes. You can see it. But it's like, but when it's basketball, it's basketball. Like you can't speak, but you basically don't speak, right? And it's like you don't get that time to sit and like you said, deconstruct and really just see what's behind Joel's eyes and in his brain. So, brilliant.
Depth, though. But I feel like we recognise that in each other. There was depth there. So yeah, that's why I wanted to get you in, man. And the night is still yet young, you know.
All right, Joel. Right, let's do this in 10 years' time. Where are you going to be in the world in 10 years' time? This will be the closing argument.
Okay.
So, like, we're sat... Oh, first of all, let's say this, because I guess this is... we don't know where we are right now. We're in your first year. First year. Exeter uni. We won't say exactly where it is in case someone comes knocking with one of your fans. But obviously, we're at Exeter uni for your first year, and we're doing this in your uni flat. Where are we going to be in 10 years' time doing this for the return?
Hopefully I'll have my own place, and I will be in a relationship with the person I want to have kids with. Okay. And I will be doing what I'm enthusiastic about for a living. Yeah. That could be sport, that could be writing, that could be speaking. But that, like, I know that's quite broad. But that's it. I think the next 10 years are going to be building to lead up to that point. Yep. Like being the man that woman's going to want to be with. Okay. Being the man that can get that place that he wants to be, and being the man that has the experiences that people want to listen to. Yep. That's where I want to be in 10 years. Yeah.
And that's a very good answer. But I'm going to demand a one-word answer. What country are you going to be in? And this is just nothing. It could be a guess, but it's just simply a log for the history books that you're going to say in 10 years' time you'll be in that country.
The country where I am most free.
Okay, go on. Based off how you feel now, which country would you like to live in 10 years' time? Don't imagine where you would be. Like if you could pick a country to live in now for your 30-year-old self, which country would that be?
Austin, Texas.
There you go. Brilliant. Thanks very much.
No, we're telling it to you, George, though.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah. You know what? I'm not going to give it that long answered question, but I think the way I am at the moment, in 10 years' time, I'd like to live out in the country. I still want access to the world and especially city because, you know, I want to be a figurehead. So, you know, somewhere out in the country, I'd love to live down in Cornwall. Have a
So, are you done playing basketball professionally at 31?
You can still live there and then
Play for Cornwall
but have your permanent address there, but fly out to
Do a
somewhere.
fly out deal with Lando or something. I hear you.
You know, I'm not going to say anything like that in the slightest. But if they want to, then, you know, you know, no. But yeah, I'd just say like I like living in the country, so I'm going to say in England, down in Cornwall maybe for 10 years.
Have you got kids at 31 or?
I'm going to say, oh God, how many years is that? 10 years. No.
Really?
Yeah, I'm going to say no. What about you? Yes or no?
Well,
No, don't know. Yes or no, John?
This is this general though. I know we said we were going to end it, but I do want to talk about this.
Okay, sure, yeah, okay.
For me, my biggest motivation, I think, long term, is like how I want my kids to view me.
Mm-hmm.
Like that, I think real success is being your kid's hero. That is it, because that's no material thing. That's the most valuable thing to me. If I'm like 60 and my son is like, I don't know, 25 or whatever, and he still wants to hang out and have chats, and he's like, Dad, you inspired me to do the things I'm doing now. That's it, made it, right? But 29, I don't know if I'll be in that position.
Yeah.
You can't predict the future, and you know, so many things can happen between now and then that will influence it. But
You'll be thinking about it.
once I have kids, my kids are the most important thing in my life. So I need to make sure that nothing else is just as important or more important by that point. So like I can't have a kid really until I've done the big career things that I want to do. I can kind of keep them rolling while I've got kids. I can write books while they're at school.
Yeah.
But I can't be building with a kid.
I think, yeah, completely agree. Like when I eventually settle, like for me, it will be, okay, have I achieved the things I wanted to achieve for my own selfish personal wants? Like, am I financially stable too? You know, do I live in the right location? Am I with the right person? You know, will I have a good network of people? Because it takes a village or it takes a town to raise a child, doesn't it? You know, am I in the right place? And if I can do all of that, then yeah, I think I'd like to bring a child into the world. And if I can use my struggle and my upbringing and my experiences to influence the next generation and do a decent job at it, then that's a win for me.
Because really, that's the only part of your life that isn't falling. It's like, yes.
But it's falling slower, I'd say.
It is, yeah. But like, if you can pass on a lesson to your kid, that then they pass on to their kid, and then their kid, and they might not attribute it to you. My great grandson or daughter might not say, oh, there was this bloke called Joel Clifton who I'm related to who did these great things. But it might be just a principle of how you live life that I instill in my son or daughter, that then they instill in their kid and their kid and their kid. And I don't care if it's not attributed to me. But that's like that butterfly effect of like how I live my life could affect my whole bloodline, even if it's in a small way and no one notices it.
Yeah.
Your last name.
Yeah, that's it. But anyway, Jake, I want to return that to question to you. So where are you living 10 years' time? What are you doing? Do you have kids? And then we will call it a day.
I'm living in Italy.
Oh,
He's
assured of that. Why Italy? I like pizza.
No.
I like pasta.
I'd never give an answer like that.
Yeah,
Because it is one of the... I think there's beauty everywhere you look.
I can imagine you on a gondola.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? With a big paddle, like rowing just your girl along, you just chatting about life while you're rowing along this gondola through Venice.
I think it's quite free. I really like the art. I think it seems right. Can't. Probably no kids. But thinking about it. And maybe with the right person. Yeah, making some form of income online. Hopefully this podcast will be quite big in 10 years' time. And doing some form of artistic work. So hopefully I have a couple forms of income that I enjoy doing.
There you go. George Gray, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you very much for having me. I'll see you in 10 years' time.
Yeah.
For
see you in
people
10
that
years.
want to check out your stuff, where should they go?
If you go onto Instagram and follow george.gray03, that's where I post all of my content. Thank you.
Where you can see his massive meal prep. All those Tupperwares.
And a slightly few other things.
Excellent.
Alright,
Cheers.
thanks
Thanks everyone.